Dear Pastor Raywinkle, I'm very sorry to add this additional burden to your work. I know that what has been done is wrong from all that I have been taught, and that any reasons that I might give will not make it right. But you are the one person that I know that, while not condoning this, will at least possibly understand why I felt I had to do this. Number one, I wasn't earning anywhere near enough to support us. Everything I tried seemed to fall to pieces. True, we could have gone bankrupt and maybe gone on welfare. Number two, that brings me to my next point. Knowing the type of location that one would have to live in, plus the environment for the children, plus the effect on them knowing that they were on welfare was just more than I thought they could and should endure. I know they were willing to cut back, but this involved a lot more than that. Number three, with Pat being so determined to get into acting, I was also fearful as to what that might do to her continuing to be Christian. I'm sure it wouldn't have helped. Number four, also with Helen not going to church, I knew that this would harm the children eventually in their attendance. I'd continued to hope that she would begin to come to church soon, but when I mentioned to her that Mr. Jutsi wanted to pay her an elder's call, she just blew up and stated that she wanted her name taken off the church rolls. Again, this could only give an adverse result for the children's continued attendance. So, that is the sum of it. If any one of these had been the condition, we might have pulled through. But this was just too much. At least I'm certain that all have gone to heaven now. If things had gone on, who knows if this would be the case. Of course, Mother got involved because doing what I did to my family would have been a tremendous shock to her at this age. Therefore, knowing that she is also a Christian, I felt it best that she should be relieved of the troubles of this world that would have hit her. After it was all over, I said some prayers for them all from the hymn book. That was the least I could do. Now for the final arrangements, Helen and the children have all agreed that they would prefer to be cremated. Please see to it that the costs are kept low. For Mother, she is a plot at the Frankenmuth Church Cemetery. Please contact Mr. Herman Schellhus, Route 4, Vassar, Michigan, 41768. He's married to a niece of Mother's and knows what arrangements are to be made. She always wanted Reverend Herman Zelinder of Bay City to preach the sermon, but he's not well. Also, I'm leaving some letters in your care. Please send them on and add whatever comments you think appropriate. The relationships are as follows. Mrs. Lydia Meyer, Mother's sister. Mrs. Eva Morris, Helen's mother. Jean Seifert, Helen's sister. Also, I don't know what will happen to the books and personal things, but to the extent possible, I'd like them to be distributed as you see fit. Some books might go to the school or church library. Originally, I had planned this for November the 1st, All Saints' Day, but travel arrangements were delayed. I thought it would be an appropriate day for them to go to heaven. As for me, please let me be dropped from the congregation rolls. I leave myself in the hand of God's justice and mercy. I don't doubt that He is able to help us, but apparently He saw fit not to answer my prayers the way that I had hoped they would be answered. This makes me think that perhaps it was for the best, as far as the children's souls are concerned. I know that many will only look at the additional years they could have lived, but they were no longer Christians. What would be gained? Also, I'm sure many will say, how could anyone do such a horrible thing? My only answer is it isn't easy and was only done after much thought. Pastor Mrs. Morris may possibly be reached at 802 Pleasant Hill Drive in Elkin, the home of her sister. One other thing. It may seem cowardly to have always shot from behind, but I didn't want any of them to even know at the last second that I had to do this to them. John got hurt more because he seemed to struggle longer. The rest were immediately out of pain. John didn't consciously feel anything either. Please remember me in your prayers. I will need them whether or not the government does its duty as it sees it. I'm only concerned with making my peace with God and of this. I am assured because of Christ dying, even for me. P.S. Mother's in the hallway in the attic, third floor. She was too heavy to move. John.
What is going on YouTube? Lamont at large. Today I am in Westfield, New Jersey. We're going to talk very briefly about the List family murder. I'm going to take you to the home where the crime was committed, and finally we're going to go to the resting place of the victims of this horrible family massacre. So who is John List? By all intents and purposes, you look at this guy's picture online and you read up a little bit about his early life. Quite an unassuming man. He was born in Michigan to German-American parents. He was raised in a very strict Lutheran household. He was the only child of his parents. As he got older, he later went on to join the army. He served in World War II, but of course he didn't fight on the enemy lines. He was a lab technician. Later, he got an honorable discharge from the military, went back to Michigan, and went to school at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. He got a master's in accounting and a bachelor's degree in business admin. Later, he went on to meet a woman who became his wife later, Helen List. And together, John and Helen, they raised 3 children: Patricia, 16, John Jr., 15, and the youngest, Freddie, was 13. And just like John List was raised in a very heavy Lutheran household, he also raised his children in that same fashion. However, it's the late 60s going into the early 70s, and these kids, they're not terribly interested in this Lutheran lifestyle. They got their own things to do. Patricia wants to be an actress, of which John did not necessarily care for. But there were some deep-seated things going on in John's mind. First of all, I do not know if the family knew this, but he had recently lost his job working as an accountant. And the family, possibly unbeknownst to them, was struggling financially. Now, any normal person, if you are raising a family, you got 3 kids, plus his mother, Alma, was living with them as well. She lived in an attic apartment upstairs on the 3rd floor. So you're, in a sense, you're taking care of your wife, your 3 kids, and your mother. So that's quite a large financial responsibility, to say the least. And in his mind, he felt that he was going to be unable to provide for his family because he lost his job, and he was scared that they were going to have to go on welfare, the dreaded welfare. Oh, and besides, yeah, my daughter wants to be an actress. I don't want that to happen. And my kids are always complaining about, waking up on Sundays and going to church. And, they're mad at me. I'm a Sunday school teacher. I love the Lord. And, nobody is into my religion. Nobody wants to read the Bible with me. They all want to do their own thing. They all want to watch TV and read stupid magazines. So I'm just going to kill them. That's what I'll do. I'll kill them. And that's exactly what he did. So on November 9th, 1971, the kids wake up. They all go to school. John is at home pretending to go to work. He doesn't have no job. He lost it. He sneaks up behind his wife with his 9mm handgun. Bam! Kills her. She's dead instantly. Takes her body, drags it into the ballroom of their bottom of their home. You'll see the house when we walk to it. It was a big house at that time. Now, I don't know if the mother heard the gunshot. Who knows? He goes upstairs, pulls out his gun. She barely seen it coming. Right in her forehead. Bam! Kills his mother. Now, he wants to move her body downstairs, but she's too heavy, and I got to go down 2 flights of stairs, so he just leaves her there. He puts a rag over her face. That's his mother. He doesn't want to, I guess, see, what, look her in the eyes, see what he did. Killers oftentimes do that. So, he kills them, and then he waits for his kids to come home to school. First, Patricia. She comes in, he shoots and kills her. Next, Freddie comes in, the same thing, shoots and kills him. Then he goes to John Jr.'s soccer game, watches him play soccer, drives him home, gets his other gun, and shoots him. But it looks like from what they've brought together, his gun probably jammed at first. So a struggle ensues. He breaks away from his son and shoots him 10 times. He gets all of his family members' bodies and drags them all into the ballroom, all on sleeping bags. He sets the thermostat of the house all the way down. He puts on a radio station that plays some kind of weird classical music. Cleans up the crime scene as best as he can possibly do. And goes out, gets in his car, and drives off. John, he gets into his car, drives to John F. Kennedy Airport, and disappears. Now, originally, John, who didn't really have many friends, had told his neighbors that the family was going to go down south to go visit some family members. They go, and the neighbors, after about a couple of weeks, they're kind of noticing, you know what, it's really weird they're not back yet. Every room in the house is lit up. The lights never turn off. They never turn on. Their mailbox is stuffed full of mail. They haven't checked their mail. The free little newspapers that those newsboys throw, with the coupons and the flyers and stuff, they're piled up there a little bit. There's about 2 or 3 of them. That's kind of weird. Obviously, nobody's home. So December 7th comes around. Apparently, I guess somebody just calls the cops and they said, listen, the List family, they went down, I believe, to North Carolina to go visit some family members. And they were only supposed to be gone about a week or 2 at the most, and they're still not here, and it's been practically a month. I think you should send some police officers to come check out the house, make sure everything is okay. So the cops come, doors locked. They find one of the windows open. They go inside. I believe it's through the basement. They come upstairs, and that's where they discovered the bloody scene and right before them in the ballroom. Even the most hardened detective is going to be aghast at the sight before his very eyes. You got 4 dead bodies in the ballroom of the List home. They checked the rest of the house and they discovered John's mother upstairs in the attic. You got 5 family members that have been brutally murdered. So they take the bodies down to the coroner's office for autopsy and they start searching the house. They find the 2 guns that John used to commit these murders, and they also found a letter. This is an open and shut case. This man killed his family, but he is nowhere to be found. Immediately, a nationwide APB felony murder arrest warrant is issued for John List. And as, of course, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and months turned into years. The police had done everything in their power to try to find this guy. Now, I believe most cops thought that John had killed his family, went to some other place, and then took his own life, and his body is nowhere to be found. I think a lot of them felt that after 10, 12 years of him being gone, that more than likely he had taken his own life, or perhaps him being older. You got 12 years have gone by. He's going to be approaching 60. He possibly had a heart attack, or maybe he got some kind of health problem and he got sick and he died. I'm sure many detectives working that case felt that, okay, after 15 years, this guy, he's got to be dead. I mean, they do a social security number trace on him and nothing comes up. Now, he did remove all the money from all the bank accounts. So they know he had a little bit of money that he could have possibly started a new life. But of course, it's really a guessing game at the end of the day. Now, as I walk from White behind these trees, this is the address. This is the home where those murders occurred 50 years ago. Now, mysteriously, the original house burned down in a fire that was set about 9 months after the murder. So that is not the original home. That home has been totally rebuilt. However, if you look at the house, it looks pretty similar in design to the original house where the murders took place. I find that very odd. Very, very nice house. Very, very nice area. These are $1 million homes over here, and I'm pretty sure this house has to be well over $1 million. So we're gonna take a little trip. I'm going to explain really quickly how John List was apprehended. So more than 17 years has occurred since the List family murder. So one night, one of the detectives working the case is watching an episode of America's Most Wanted. And as he's watching the show, he's thinking to himself, hey, I wonder if I call them and I ask them to possibly air the show, I wonder if they would be interested. So he calls them, gets in contact with the show's producers, and lo and behold, they say, yeah, this is a very interesting case. So I believe right around June or July of 1989, and I remember this, I used to watch America's Most Wanted every Sunday at 8:30 p.m. on Fox 11, Los Angeles. I watched it every Sunday religiously. 8, 9 years old watching that show, and I remember this very first episode. And they came out, they did the reenactments of the murder, and surprisingly, they came out with this bust of what John List supposedly looked like. Now, they did a really good job on the bust because the last picture they had of John List was several years before the murder, so that nobody knew what he looked like as a 64, 65-year-old some odd man. Nobody knows, but they did a rough guess. They would look at pictures of his parents, especially his father, and then they kind of made the bust from that. And as they aired the episode, a lady in Denver by the name of Wanda Flannery, she's watching the show with her daughter, and she says, wait a minute, she goes, that's so funny. She said, doesn't that look like Bob? And her daughter says, yeah, that looks just like Bob. And she said, well, that can't be Bob. She goes, his name isn't John List, his name is Bob Clark. And she knows Bob very well because she's married to her very good friend, Dolores Miller. So something's bothering her because she says, this bust looks just like him. The younger pictures would look like him when he were younger, but he's married to my friend and he's an accountant here in Denver. Well, he was because he moved. Him and his wife moved out to Richmond, Virginia. He got a better job out there. She says, all the hell with it. She calls the producers calls the TV show and says, yeah, hey, I had this neighbor, Bob Clark, looks just like him. I don't know. Maybe she's starting to doubt herself now. So the FBI get on the phone. They talk to her. They have some agents from the Denver office come out there to interview her. And she just says, it looks like him. That's all I'm going to say. It looks just like him. So she tells them that he moved to Richmond, Virginia, and they get their agents from Virginia, and they look up Bob Clark. He's working at an accounting firm, and they're waiting for him to go to work. So he parks his car, comes out, walks to work. One of the FBI agents says, excuse me, are you Mr. Bob Clark? And he says, yes. And the agent says, are you John List? And he says, no. And the agent looks behind his right ear and notices the right surgical scar that was on the television program. And he tells him, he says, you're John List, put your hands behind your back. And after 17 years and 6 months, almost 18 years, they finally arrested him. They arrested him for the murder of his family right here. This is the List family grave. Patricia, Helen, Freddie, and John. There is place in the eternal valley. So John List was finally caught. He was tried, convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. And that is where he died in 2008. Rest in peace to the List family. All right, guys, I'm Lamont at Large. I will catch up with you on the next vlog. Have a good one. Peace out.